Well folks, buckle up. Today, we're diving into a whirlwind of activity that marked a significant day in American politics. Because on his first day back in the Oval Office, former President Trump wasted no time in making it abundantly clear that he was back with a mission. This wasn't your average, ceremonial first 100 days stuff. No sir, this was a full-throttle, pedal-to-the-metal kind of day. This was a full-blown executive order extravaganza, the likes of which we haven't seen, well, probably since his last term. From immigration to energy, from healthcare to education, Trump was on a roll. From free speech to transgender rights, no topic was off limits. Each stroke of his pen sent ripples through the nation. Trump unleashed a barrage of directives that sent shockwaves through Washington and beyond. His supporters cheered, his detractors despaired, and the media had a field day. Legal scholars across the country frantically dug out their copies of the Constitution, analyzing the implications of each new order. Debates erupted in academic circles and on social media. One thing was certain, America was officially back on Trump time. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and uncertainty, and whether you loved it or hated it, there was no denying that things were about to get very interesting, very quickly. The nation braced itself for the changes ahead, knowing that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in American history. First on the chopping block, anything even remotely smelling of Biden. With the stroke of a pen, well, many pens presumably, Trump rescinded dozens of his predecessors' executive actions, orders, and memoranda. Gone were policies on climate change, LGBTQ+ rights, and pandemic relief. In their place, a return to Trump's vision of America pro-fossil fuels, skeptical of government intervention, and with a focus on what he saw as traditional values. This undoing Biden spree was a clear signal that Trump intended to erase the previous 4 years and reinstate his own agenda, consequences be damned. But it wasn't just Biden's legacy and Trump's crosshairs. The federal workforce itself found itself facing a new reality. Trump mandated a return to in-person work for all federal employees, effectively ending the era of remote work ushered in by the pandemic. He also instituted a hiring freeze, aiming to shrink the size of the federal government. And as for the cost of living crisis gripping the nation, well, Trump directed all federal agencies to, address it. How exactly remained to be seen, but hey, at least someone was finally on the case, right? Next up, Trump turned his attention to two issues near and dear to his heart: climate change and free speech. These topics have been central to his political identity and have sparked significant debate across the nation. Remember the Paris Agreement, that landmark international accord aimed at combating global warming? It was a significant step forward in the global effort to address climate change, with countries around the world committing to reduce their carbon emissions. Yeah, Trump pulled the US right back out of that one. His decision was met with both applause and criticism, reflecting the deep divisions in American society over environmental policy. He argued that it was a bad deal for America, stifling economic growth and putting us at a disadvantage. Trump believed that the agreement unfairly targeted American industries while allowing other countries to continue polluting. Meanwhile, on the free speech front, Trump signed an executive order aimed at protecting the First Amendment rights of federal employees. This move was part of his broader effort to champion free speech, particularly for those who felt their voices were being silenced. This, he claimed, was necessary to combat what he saw as widespread censorship of conservative voices within the government. Trump and his supporters argued that conservative viewpoints were being unfairly targeted and suppressed. Critics, however, worried that it would open the door to hate speech and discrimination. They argued that the executive order could be used to justify harmful rhetoric under the guise of free speech, potentially leading to increased social tensions and conflicts. The debates over climate change and free speech are far from over. As the world continues to grapple with environmental challenges and the complexities of free expression, these issues will remain at the forefront of political discourse. Trump's actions have left a lasting impact, shaping the conversation for years to come. But wait, there's more. Trump wasn't done yet. He declared a national energy emergency, aiming to boost domestic oil and gas production. He also issued a presidential memorandum on inflation, outlining a plan to tackle rising prices. Whether these measures would have any real impact remained to be seen, but they certainly played well with Trump's base, who saw them as signs that he was taking their economic anxieties seriously. Section 6. Immigration, Identity, and the Government's Role. Immigration was another key area where Trump moved swiftly. He declared a national emergency at the border, vowing to crack down on illegal immigration and build his long-promised wall. He also reinstated controversial policies like Remain in Mexico, which forced asylum seekers to wait in dangerous conditions south of the border. And in a move that sparked outrage from LGBTQ+ advocates, Trump revoked guidelines protecting transgender students' rights and banned transgender individuals from serving in the military. Section 7. Scrutinizing law enforcement and shifting priorities. Ever the showman, Trump also announced an investigation into the weaponization of the federal government against him and his allies. This, he claimed, was necessary to root out corruption and restore trust in American institutions. Critics, however, saw it as a thinly veiled attempt to settle scores and intimidate his opponents. And in another move sure to please his base, Trump announced plans to end the Biden administration's push for electric vehicles, arguing that it was killing American jobs. Section 8. Alaskan Resources and the Road Ahead. Not content with just domestic policy, Trump also set his sights on Alaska. He announced plans to open up more of the state's vast wilderness to oil and gas drilling, a move that environmental groups vowed to fight tooth and nail. As for the legal challenges that were sure to follow this flurry of executive action, well, Trump seemed almost to relish the prospect of a good court battle. After all, what better way to own the libs than by fighting them in the courts? Section 9. A Nation Divided, the Long Shadow of Executive Action. So there you have it, folks. Trump's first day back in office was nothing short of a whirlwind. From the moment he stepped into the White House, it was clear that he had a very specific agenda. His arrival was marked by a flurry of activity, with aides and advisors bustling around, setting the stage for what would be a highly controversial tenure. He came out swinging, wielding executive power like a blunt instrument. Within hours, he had signed a series of executive orders that would set the tone for his administration. These orders were not just symbolic gestures. They were bold moves aimed at fulfilling his campaign promises. Whether it was immigration, healthcare, or trade, Trump made it clear that he was not going to wait for Congress to act. Whether you agreed with his policies or not, there was no denying that he was a man on a mission. His actions sparked intense debates across the nation. In living rooms, offices, and public spaces, people were discussing the implications of his decisions. Some saw him as a decisive leader who was finally taking action, while others viewed him as a reckless figure who was bypassing democratic norms. But at what cost? Trump's actions deepened the already gaping partisan divide in America. The country, already fractured along political lines, found itself even more polarized. Protests erupted in cities across the nation, with people taking to the streets to voice their opposition. The atmosphere was charged, and the sense of division was palpable. They left many Americans feeling anxious, uncertain, and deeply divided. Families found themselves at odds over dinner table discussions, friendships were tested, and the general public was left grappling with a sense of unease. The media was filled with stories of people who felt alienated and concerned about the direction the country was taking, and they raised serious questions about the limits of executive power and the future of American democracy. Legal scholars and political analysts began to debate the implications of such concentrated power in the hands of one individual. Was this a temporary phase, or were we witnessing a fundamental shift in how executive power was wielded in the United States? One thing's for sure, the long-term consequences of Trump's first-day blitz are only just beginning to be felt. The ripple effects of his actions are likely to influence American politics for years to come. As the nation continues to grapple with these changes, the true impact of his executive actions will become clearer, and the ride is likely to be anything but smooth. The nation is in for a turbulent journey with many twists and turns along the way. As we move forward, it'll be crucial to keep a close eye on how these executive actions shape the future of American democracy.